Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FantasyGuru.com. Monday through Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Pacific. Ray Flowers breaks it all down for you from a fantasy sports perspective. Hey there, everyone. Ray Flowers of FantasyGuru.com. How you doing today? Hopefully well. Things going okay over here. Nothing exciting, nothing grand, but okay. And hopefully things are okay in your world as well, because at the end of the day, there's a lot of negativity in the world, but let's try to be positive, something I struggle with at times. Let's try to be positive here as we approach the holiday season, and let's have some fun here on the show. Again, I'm Ray Flowers of FantasyGuru.com. Fantasy Sports Daily is powered by FantasyGuru.com. Head to FG, click that subscribe tab in the top right corner. Get all of our football coverage. You see it on the screen right there. All of our football coverage. It's a great deal right now. You should be checking it out, folks. $65 the rest of the way. When I say the rest of the way, I'm not just talking a couple of weeks here in the regular season. I'm talking all the way through the playoffs, okay? Whether you're playing seasonal fantasy football, DFS fantasy football, wagering on football, we've got you covered. All three of those areas, one low price. Click the subscribe tab in the top right corner. The only thing it doesn't include is the betting guide for the Super Bowl. That's it. That's a separate item. Everything else for the football product through the playoffs, $65 right now. Maybe you've always wanted to see what the deal was with DFS. You never really got involved. Maybe your seasonal team, it didn't go great this year, but you want to keep the good times rolling. You want to do a few bets, throw some of those in there. You want to play the DFS game. We got you covered. Articles, live streams, Discord rooms, so you can chat with the folks over at FantasyGuru.com. Head over there, subscribe tab in the top right corner. Okay. What are we talking about today? There it is on the screen. Change the blue a little bit. Still looks kind of gray, but it's about as blue as I could get and still feel comfortable with the way it looks. So I'm trying, folks. I'm trying. Today we're going to talk about the NFL. What's going on in the NFL? Starting off with the Trevor Lawrence story. You probably all heard his season is done. Well, almost certainly done. I guess he's going to have shoulder surgery. We'll talk a little bit more about that. A myriad of players. McConkey, Mike Evans, Breece Hall. Are these guys playing this week? We'll talk about it. Kendre Miller, Alexander Mattison, DeAndre Swift. Is every Bears player on the injured list right now? No, but are they all on the missing practice list? Yeah, we'll talk about that. What the hell's going on with Diontae Johnson and the Ravens? Austin Ekeler, is his season over? Something to think about. Well, let's talk about kickers. Yes, kickers are people too. They're in the news. McPherson, York, Wright, Reichard. Lots to talk about at the kicker position. We had like 4 stories break on the kicker yesterday. It's in like a 4-hour period of time. Never happened before in the history of fantasy sports. We'll talk a little bit about that. We'll also visit in about 25 or 30 minutes with Tyler Beaker. We always talk with Tyler on Thursdays. Tyler comes in, talks some big picture items. We'll ask him, what does Trevor Lawrence's future look like? Brandin Cooks, is he worth anything at this point in time? Do you carry 2 defenses or 2 kickers? I know a lot of people are talking about doing that, getting ready for the playoffs. We'll get Tyler's take. What is scheming for success? It's an article he writes. What is it? We'll talk about that. And then we'll break down, obviously, the Thursday night football game here between the Packers and the Lions. All right. And by the way, you all know that. I see the chat room's already blowing up over at FantasyGuru.com's YouTube page. You can go to FantasyGuru.com, click the Elite Plus tab at the top to find the show. You can type in Fantasy Sports Daily to your podcast network to find the show. You can follow us on Twitter X at FantasyGuru site to watch the show live or on demand. And then there's 2 spots where you can actually leave comments and questions that we will see here and discuss throughout the show. Usually we handle these at the end of the show. Sometimes they come up topically is what we're talking about. Facebook.com/FantasyGuruHQ is the first spot. And the second spot where most of you are at is YouTube.com/Elite Plus Network, YouTube.com/@Elite Plus Network. You can watch, listen live, and interact with us by asking questions there. And I want to also say, and I never say this, I should as a YouTuber now, because technically I'm a YouTuber. We'd appreciate if you click the like and subscribe tabs. I assume most of you do that. That helps us out too, because this is a free show, and it helps us maybe make a little advertising coin to keep this show going, to keep it part of my day and yours. Monday through Friday, the show is here for you. Wednesdays, Justin Fensterman's in the house. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, I'm here hosting. On Wednesdays, I'm with Jeff Mans on the Elite Sports Show. That show is SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio, 3 to 6, Monday through Friday. I am there with him on Wednesdays. Okay, let's start out. Jeff Mans and I on that show yesterday, in fact, had a long discussion about Trevor Lawrence. And, sometimes players live up to expectations. Sometimes they don't live up to expectations. Sometimes there's obvious reasons for why they do one or the other, right? Sometimes, to be fair, sometimes just players just go nuts and far exceed any expectations. And unfortunately, there are other times where players struggle to have any semblance of productivity to levels that were expected. And frankly, and I say this all the time, there are people whose lives, whose jobs, whose careers are 100% about analyzing NFL players. And to be truthful with you, they kind of suck at it. There's a lot of NFL players that were supposed to be superstars that are out of the league in 3 or 4 years. And there's players nobody was ever talking about that become all-stars, all-pros. Jeff Mans and I had a long discussion yesterday about Trevor Lawrence. We talked about historically, how does he stack up to this year's rookie class? We went through, my random take of he's Eli Manning. Jeff said, well, without the Super Bowl titles, yeah, that's a big difference. But the bottom line is with Trevor Lawrence is that he hurt his shoulder. He's also got the head injury that he dealt with, but he's got hurt his shoulder. He's been placed on the injured list. He's expected, according to Ian Rappaport, to have shoulder surgery. Now, it's his non-throwing arm. It's an AC joint. It should be a surgery that's able to fix the problem. And he should be fine for week 1 next year. All that should be the case. But the truth of the matter is, Trevor Lawrence has simply failed to live up to expectations, period. And as I said on the show with Jeff on Sirius yesterday, I haven't done a study. I said it yesterday, and I didn't get a chance to do it last night. Haven't done a study, but how many quarterbacks have made 60 starts over a 4-year period of time and ever gone from where they are at that point to greatness? Like even Eli Manning, even Peyton Manning struggled. He led the league in interceptions his first season. Like guys struggle at the start of their careers, but Trevor Lawrence has been a quarterback for 4 years now. The team's record, I think, is 22-38. His numbers are very average across the board. As I said with Jeff on the show yesterday, I'm not discounting the fact that he could be quarterback 8 to 15 in any week. But I think at this point in time, you have to look at Trevor Lawrence and think quarterback 2. We can all hope and pray that he develops beyond that. But the fact is, it hasn't happened. And Jeff is really on it hasn't happened and he gets a free pass. And there's so many other guys that, Caleb Williams is a prime example. We talked about this directly. If you remove the game last week where Trevor Lawrence, was limited because of the head injury, if you remove that game and you compare his per game average this season and his healthy games to the per game healthy games of per game average and healthy games for Caleb Williams, guess what? There's less than a 1-point difference. The perception is Trevor Lawrence is okay and then Caleb Williams stinks. The data says they're the same guy. So as bad as Caleb Williams is, and Trevor Lawrence in year 4 is no better than Caleb Williams. I won't belittle, extend. Neither one of those words is the right word. I won't extend the conversation here. If you missed it on the show yesterday, you can always catch it on the SiriusXM app. We had a long discussion about it. Bottom line is Trevor Lawrence is disappointing. He has shown no signs of taking his game to the next level. And for those of you in Dynasty or Keeper Leagues, he's just a guy. I'll ask Tyler Beaker if his thoughts are any different here in a few minutes. But to me, he's just a guy. And that's obviously not what was expected from a guy who's supposed to transform his team, his organization, be a face of NFL, and who they paid $275 million to. Oof. All right, going on a little bit more directly to what's going on right now. Mac Jones, by the way, will start for the Jaguars, of course. Good news for Parker Washington, for those of you looking to utilize Parker Washington. And as I said, as Jeff has said too, I don't really think Mac Jones is a substantial step down from Trevor Lawrence. Sorry. I just don't think he is. Ladd McConkey's got knee and shoulder issues. We continue to talk about Ladd McConkey. And the fact of the matter is that Ladd McConkey, he is vital to the offense. He is the only pass-catching option, obviously, with the Chargers you can count on. He gets huge target shares most weeks. Shoulder and knee issues. He's all kinds of beat up, and he limited at practice yesterday. It's only Thursday morning, so we'll get updates. And I don't think at this point in time that we should be expecting McConkey to miss this weekend's game. But he's all beat up, and he's doing a lot of the running to the sidelines during the game, and the shoulder and the knee. So I am cautiously optimistic he will be fine, play a full complement of snaps, and be a usable fantasy piece this week. Let's continue to monitor the reporting with Ladd McConkey, though, and understand that, any player can get hurt on any play, all that kind of stuff. But Ladd really seems to be set up as somebody that, could have an in-game setback, and it wouldn't necessarily take that much this week. So he could get 8 to 10 targets against the Chiefs. Not an easy matchup either, but they desperately need him, obviously, in that game, and I'm sure he'll try to give it a go, but he's kind of beat up right now. Another player who's beat up, and again, it's Thursday morning, 9:15 here on the West Coast. Too early to know anything definitively with Mike Evans, but Mike Evans came back last week, was productive. There's been a lot of storylines about him pushing for another 1,000-yard season, what it would take each week to get there. We know the organization wants to get him to that level. We know how important Evans is to the offense for the Bucs. But Evans has got a hamstring issue that he's dealt with, right? He missed the game, 3 games or whatever it was. Hamstring's nagging him a little bit, and now we're hearing there's a calf issue he's dealing with. So he didn't practice yesterday. He's a veteran. He don't need to practice, right? He knows exactly what he needs to do on game day, all that kind of stuff. Mike Evans could miss practice all week and still play this weekend. This is something to keep an eye on, though, because it's not just, the hamstring is a little bit of a concern. We're just being careful here because he missed game action with it. This is now a calf issue, too. So very, very closely follow the reporting today. The Bucs are obviously in the playoff hunt. Their odds of winning football games drastically goes down if Mike Evans is out of the mix. However, if Mike Evans blows his leg out, they're in huge trouble. So there's that balancing act. Stay tuned. Today is a huge key for Mike Evans. It'll be even bigger tomorrow, I would think, on Friday for cert to lock in whatever we learned today. But right now, there is concern with Mike Evans and his availability this week. Another player who, we've been concerned with going back a week ago, Breece Hall of the Jets. They said that he had a knee issue, and oh boy. And there was about a 24-hour period where there was legit concern. And then Breece Hall came out and said, look, my knee is sore, but I'm fine. By the end of the week, everyone said he was fine. And you go out, look at the game action on the weekend, and he dominated the backfield in touches and in snaps. But we did see Allen and Davis involved. There's always going to be Allen involved as a support piece to Hall. But the Davis part, that was... And here we go again with Breece Hall not practicing on Wednesday this week. Now, again, this is following a similar pattern potentially to last week, and everything was fine with Breece Hall. Interim head coach Jeff Albright was asked and said, I don't know for certain he's going to play this week. Whoa. So the bottom line is we still have Hall right now ranked as a running back 1 at Fantasy Guru. Those rankings are obviously updated throughout the week as the information becomes available. If you have Hall right now, I think I'm leaning, let's say 60-40 he plays, 70-30 he plays. I'm leaning in that direction right now. But it's early in the week. We will get that extra information. And, someone asked this morning in a Discord question over at fantasyguru.com, asked me, look, I have Hall. Do I play David Montgomery or Josh Jacobs and just see what? And I said, you got to play Josh Jacobs. As given what we know right now, you've got to be planning on starting Josh Jacobs tonight versus waiting for Breece Hall. You obviously want to play David Montgomery too. But bottom line is with Breece Hall, we have to watch these reports. Braylon Allen, if he's on the waiver wire, all of you love grabbing random running backs off the waiver wire when you don't have the handcuff. I know it. I've joked about answering the question, almost 1,600 times. If he's still on the waiver wire, and I don't know if he is after what happened last week with Hall. If Braylon Allen's on the waiver wire this week, Adam, we just don't know right now with Breece Hall. Now, a player that's likely on waiver wires everywhere, and the only people that might have taken this guy off the waiver wire are people that listen to Elite Sports, or follow this show, or follow us over at fantasyguru.com, because the ownership rate of the following running back is like 1%. Understandable. He's been hurt multiple times this year. He's been on the IR. His previous head coach did not like him. I don't know if it was a personal thing, a professional thing. I don't know what it was, but his previous head coach did not like him. The good news for this player is he's now healthy. This player's had a hamstring injury. That's what he's been dealing with here. He's practicing in full. So there's a legitimate chance that he's going to be activated and because he's been designated a return from the IR. There's a good chance that this player will be active this weekend for his team. And the good news for him is that his new head coach said a lot of positive things about him in the press, the exact opposite of the former head coach. I'm, of course, talking about Kendre Miller of the Saints. If you have Alvin Kamara and you've been tagging him with Mims or Williams, make the move to Kendre Miller right now. Don't even ask questions. Just go add Kendre Miller. If you like to play the game of the what if game, let's grab the random running back. Kendre Miller is the random running back to grab here. Because we have a scenario where Alvin Kamara is always a little bit beat up. He's got massive workloads. He's been getting 20-plus touches every week. He's a veteran player. Do they shut him down late with nothing to play for? Does he wear down? Do they start to conserve him a little bit, knowing that their season is lost? Why blow him out now if you can try to win something next year? Kendre Miller all of a sudden has life. Now, can he stay healthy? I don't know. And just because his head coach says they like him doesn't mean he's going to be on the field. We've talked a lot about Sean Tucker, right? That hasn't happened either. But there is a legitimate path to Kendre Miller having significant work down the stretch here. Significant work. He's a vastly superior all-around football player to Mims and Williams, Jamal Williams. Vastly superior player. And he would be in line for 15-plus touches a week in an offense that would have no Alvin Kamara, that would have no Taysom Hill, that has, is down to MVS being their number one wideout. Like Kendre Miller could be touching it 20 times a week too. So I don't know if he's going to be active this week or not. I don't know if he ever sees the field. I don't know if any of what I just said ever pays off or comes to fruition. But Kendre Miller should not be on the waiver wire if you have the ability to add him. Just as simple as that. Now, Alexander Mattison's got an ankle issue. Jahmyr White's got the quad issue. These guys haven't played for weeks. First time out, it was Amir Abdullah that hit. Then it was Sincere McCormick that hit. A lot of people I've seen in the fantasy space and read articles and social media have been talking about Sincere McCormick. I get it. He looked pretty good last week. It's 12 carries, 63 yards, whatever it was. Amir Abdullah is a satellite back. We know that. He's not a guy that's going to be running between the tackles. So McCormick seems to be the player obviously trending in the backfield for the Raiders. The obvious problem with that is we don't know if or when or how Mattison or Jahmyr White will ever get back on the field, but Mattison practiced yesterday. He was limited last week too in practice. So, I mean, how many weeks can you be a limited participant in practice before they just put you on the IR and say your season's over? Like we're kind of getting to that point, in my opinion, with Alexander Mattison. He's either going to go or that's it, right? My lean right now is that he's going to give it a go. And if Mattison gives it a go, Mattison probably becomes the third down back, relegating Amir Abdullah to nothingness. And of course, I would have to think he eats into some of the carry work of McCormick as well. So the bottom line is here, could you add McCormick this week? Sure, you can add McCormick this week. Would you be starting him this week with any level of confidence if Jahmyr White and or Alexander Mattison is active? I would say no. Can you be confidently starting him even if those guys are out? I'm going to say no. So McCormick's not a bad ad, but I think there's a very narrow path to utilizing him this week and having it pay off for you in the fantasy game. So be cautious with starting Sincere McCormick, given everything we know right now. Talking about the Bears, and I jokingly said everyone with the Bears is hurt. The Bears situation, I mean, I had someone ask me about the funniness with Kyle Shanahan and the reporting on the health of players. What are the Bears doing right now? Well, before we get to what craziness of the Bears doing at the wide receiver spot, let's talk about the backfield. Roschon Johnson has a concussion, didn't play last game. Or he got concussed in week 13 on Thanksgiving. Still hasn't cleared the concussion protocol. Not to say that he can't, okay? He's got a chance, obviously, to return this week, but you have to keep an eye on that because he still has not been officially cleared and returned to practice. Johnson has been the thorn in the side of DeAndre Swift the last couple of games, being utilized a lot on third downs and at the goal line, and he was very likely he would return to the similar role if he's indeed active this week in week number 14. Now, DeAndre Swift didn't practice yesterday because he has a quad issue. Veteran day off for a beat-up running back? Probably. Is that absolutely what's going on? We don't know. So again, we need more information here, but soft tissue injuries, running backs. Yeah. So, right now we're not sure that Johnson's going to play. We're not positive that Swift is going to play. It's very possible that both guys are active this week. So this is an evolving situation that we have to keep an eye on. I don't think anyone wants to get crazy here and go to the waiver wire and start picking up Travis Homer. But he is the next guy up. So there might be run for Travis Homer at some point this week. But for now, we got a situation where we have to maintain a vigilant eye on what the Bears are doing in their backfield. What are they doing at the wide receiver position? Well, DJ Moore didn't practice yesterday with a quad injury. Keenan Allen didn't practice yesterday with an ankle injury. Again, 2 veterans. A lot of times later in the year, especially, veterans don't practice, on Wednesdays because what does it matter? Might be nothing with Moore and Allen. Might be nothing. But with the change in OC, the change in the head coach, and the further maturation of Caleb Williams, both Moore and Allen are things, right? Now, you can't be expecting 7-8 catches every week like we've seen from them recently, but both Moore and Allen, I think Moore is a really good wide receiver 3. Allen's a really good wide receiver 4. I think in certain scenarios you could bump that up to make Moore a 2 and Allen even a 3. So, these are important pieces in the fantasy space. Bottom line is with the Bears, we have to keep a very close eye on their injury report this week because, again, we've got their top 2 running backs. I guess their top 2 wideouts. I was having a discussion this morning with someone about Rome Odunze and dropping Rome Odunze. And in that scenario, we were discussing that it might be the right move. But for anyone thinking about dropping Rome Odunze this week, understand that right now, Allen and Moore are missing practice time. And that obviously means that Odunze could be the wide receiver 1 of the Bears this week. And if he's the wide receiver 1, he's getting 10 targets. So be very cautious about making a move away from Rome Odunze. I think most people probably aren't really considering that anyway at this point in time. But that's a situation we've got to keep monitoring. Another situation to monitor, and this one's really interesting because Jeff Mans and I talked about Cedric Tillman on the Elite Sports Show yesterday, and I'll reiterate my main points there in a second with him. But I've received a bunch of Cedric Tillman questions. And again, folks, it's Wednesday morning. The Browns are not playing it's Thursday morning, excuse me. I don't even know what day it is. It's Thursday morning. The Browns don't play on Thursday Night Football. Like, why are we setting lineups and why are we asking questions about, should Cedric Tillman be in my lineup this week? Cedric Tillman's got a head injury. He didn't play last week, and right now he's not practicing. So if you're asking me a question about Cedric Tillman right now at 9:25 on the West Coast on a Thursday morning, Cedric Tillman's out. I don't even know if he's going to play. Could he be cleared and return to game action this week? Absolutely. If he is cleared and returns to game action, he's right at the bottom of that wide receiver 3 ranking. Well, Ray, Elijah Moore. And we've talked about this on the show here. I want to say we talked about it with Armando Marsal, but there's a very pyramidal structure with the passing attack with Jameis Winston under center. And you basically have 4 guys getting 20% target share. Njoku, Moore, Tillman, of course, and then Judy. They're all getting roughly that target share. I would expect Tillman to return and get roughly the 20% target share. That he'd be out there running all the snaps anyway in their 3 wide receiver sets. So I think that Tillman is a viable option. I think we're getting a little over our skis if we're expecting Elijah Moore and or Jerry Jeudy to just circumvent Tillman to the point where he's irrelevant. He's a little bit more of a deep threat. There's a little bit less of a floor than like Elijah Moore, but I think there's more ceiling with Tillman. So we'll continue to monitor this. Can't answer questions with Cedric Tillman right now. I don't know if he's going to play. But he's not someone that should be on the waiver wire. That question has come up multiple times too. Cedric Tillman should not be on the waiver wire. I would roster him if you have the opportunity to do so. Tight end position. Jatavian Sanders, hurt his neck. I don't know if all of you saw the injury or not, but he basically landed right on his head. We're getting some positive reporting. Dave Canales, the head coach of the Panthers, said that Sanders is trending toward playing this weekend against the Eagles. Now, this is really good news. Sanders is a desperation tight end 1 if he plays. He's a very solid tight end 2 if he suits up. I don't know how many people have 2 tight end leagues. I'm going to say nobody. There are leagues that have 3, 4 flex spots. Would Sanders, if active, be in that mix? I'm still going to say no. But he is somebody that there are 6 teams on bye this week. So the normal advice of, Jatavian Sanders is tight end 24. Well, maybe he's tight end 18 this week. And maybe Juwan Johnson's foot is an issue that we hear more about this week. Maybe someone else pops up on the injury report. So put Sanders on the watch list this week. Understand that, as I noted, he's very tough to trust. But Bryce Young has played better football of late. Leggett is kind of settling in as that wide receiver 2. We saw the emergence or reemergence of Adam Thielen as the wide receiver 1 last week for the Panthers. All of a sudden, the passing attacks got a little bit of legs here. And Sanders, would be in essence, third receiving option here because they don't really have a third receiver they trust. Jalen Coker's trending toward playing too, so we'll see how the youngster is involved in the offense there. But Sanders, watch list. It's not actionable data right now, but a watch list depending on how things go the rest of the week. Speaking of how things are going, well, the Ravens are on bye this week. So, none of those guys are available anyway. But Diontae Johnson won't be playing in Week 15 when they come back because he's been suspended for conduct detrimental to the team for a game. Apparently, he was asked to go into the game and wouldn't do it. I can't fathom my boss telling me, Ray, I need you at work today, and just not showing up. Nah. And if I did do that, I'd expect it to be suspended or fired too. I understand Diontae Johnson is not happy. I understand he went to the Ravens and hasn't been utilized. I get it. I totally understand where he's at. He's pissed off. He thought he was going somewhere. He's not enjoying the fact the team was better than where he was and they're winning because he's not on the football field. Totally get that. But you got to be a pro, man. He's not a rookie. He's been around for years now. You got to be a pro. How is he going to get a 3-year, $35 million contract for someone else next year in the offseason? How's he going to get that contract now after a team that's going to sign him doesn't know if he's going to show up for work? Maybe he gets one target and then the following week he just doesn't want to play. So, again, Jeff Mans talks about this all the time. Like, the number one trait is showing up for your freaking job. Didn't go in the game when the coaches asked him to. Ooh. So, for those of you holding out any modicum of hope, even if, like we talked about on this show, he's basically been added as a handcuff in case, Zay Flowers gets hurt. If Zay Flowers got hurt, would they even play him at this point? Diontae Johnson, Toilet City. I jokingly said earlier, who is the worst addition, Diontae Johnson or Mike Williams to the Steelers? Even though Mike Williams has done nothing, Johnson's obviously the worst addition. He's not doing anything on the field and certainly not being a good teammate off of it. Austin Ekeler, this is concerning because obviously Washington's pushing for the playoffs, and we've talked a lot on this show and on the Elite Sports Show on Sirius XM about the success of the running game. We've seen it, whether it's Brian Robinson or Chris Rodriguez or Jeremy McNichols or Austin Ekeler. There's a really good running team there with the Commanders. Austin Ekeler's obviously out with the head injury that he suffered on that kick return. And he was talking to the media yesterday, and he said he's week to week. Now, they further had this conversation, and it came out that Ekeler doesn't remember walking off the field last time out. Doesn't remember getting in the ambulance. Doesn't remember going to the hospital. Like, he's lost. He blacked out for 30 minutes, in essence. He has no memory of that. And again, head injuries. But, I've never had that. I talked to Armando Marcel earlier this week. I've never had a head injury that led to a concussion. So I don't – but, I've drank too much and woken up and not remembered where I put my shoes or stuff like that, right? And then, they're in the corner, thank God. But just not remembering getting hit, being seen by doctors, being taken off the field, being taken to the hospital, that's So there is also in that report from The Athletic discussion about how when he had his earlier concussion, his last concussion previous to the last one, he also doesn't remember a lot of what happened. So I don't know if Austin Ekeler plays again this year. That's the bottom line. It's the bottom line. He's had multiple head injuries. He's had his most two recent head injuries. He's had significant memory loss. So for those of you out there going the Jeremy McNichols or Chris Rodriguez route, it's probably the right thing to do here. Because obviously Ekeler couldn't return to week 18 anyway. But I don't even know if he's going to be back this season. Let's just wish him well. Because it sounds like a pretty scary scenario he's dealing with right now. Before we talk to Tyler Beaker about Thursday football and some general topics in the world of the NFL, a couple of news on kickers, because like I said earlier, kickers are people too. And I don't know if we've ever seen the excitement we saw yesterday for the kicker position. Massive news stories breaking all the time. Evan McPherson was hurt. He's going to miss a little bit of time. Then like an hour later, he's placed on the injured list. Okay, so now a non-reported injury for him is knocking him out for 4 weeks. Cade York is going to take over for the Bengals. Obviously, that's a pretty good position to have a kicker in. They score a lot of points through the Bengals. So it's now he in Cincinnati. Matthew Wright is now the kicker again for Kansas City like he was last week. I think he had 4 field goals last week. He's the kicker again this week for the Chiefs. In Minnesota, Will Reichard is practicing, so there's a chance he could return. So be careful there with Romo and Reichard. You have to make sure you know who's kicking for the Vikings because we're not clear at this point in time. Kicker news. Super exciting stuff here on Fantasy Sports Daily. We will leave that excitement because I know you all need to take a breath because that was, kicker news. Let me take a sip of water. It's actually tea. Little black tea with chai spice. Woo! Okay. It's now time to talk some real football. And when we talk real football on Thursdays, we talk to our man, Tyler Beaker. Tyler, you can find him over at fantasyguru.com and Discord. You can find him leading the live stream for the DFS game on Friday nights. You can find him on the Tuesday night seasonal Discord. Remember, live stream. Remember, all these things can be accessed by going to fantasyguru.com, clicking the subscribe tab in the top right corner. We have a 3-prong package right now. You get all 3 pieces that we're offering for the football package, seasonal DFS and wagering, all for one price, which means you get every article that Tyler writes about seasonal, every article he writes about DFS, every bet he places. You can see every live stream he does and have access to asking him questions in the chat room as well. Go to fantasyguru.com, click that subscribe tab in the top right corner to get our man's information. How about some free stuff from Tyler Beaker to give you the reason or the desire to get the coverage at FG the rest of the way? We'll bring him in right now. He's Tyler Beaker, fantasyguru.com. How you doing, Tyler?
Doing great, Ray. Pardon me. I missed this show last week. I hope everyone had a happy Thanksgiving. It ended up being one of the best betting weeks I've ever had, a plus 15 unit week.
Woo!
Have never seen anything like that. We're running red hot. So if you need another reason to get into that wagering package, there you go. We are scorched earth right now.
What how many bets did you actually place? Were there numerous multi-unit bets, or was it just a ton of success?
No, I usually only ever place single unit bets, and some will be half unit bets. I do that for some variance plays like touchdowns or longest reception, longest pass, that kind of thing.
Right.
But for the most part, like 95% of all of my bets are single unit plays or less. Occasionally, I think I have maybe 5 to 7 multi-unit plays, and we're in week 14. Mm-hmm. I think I've posted 5 to 7 throughout the year, so sparingly.
Yeah, and again, remember, folks, $65, and Jeff Mann says it on the Elite Sports Show on Sirius every day. Like, we can't guarantee you're going to make $65 in betting or DFS, but you got a pretty good shot of making $65 to recoup your investment. So check that out over at FG. Click that subscribe tab in the top right corner. I hope you had a good Thanksgiving too, Tyler. Was there a lot of stuffing and turkey and yams and all that kind of good stuff for you?
Yep, all the goodies. Stuffing gluten filled and gluten free. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, we did a lot of stuffing this year for some reason. Yeah, it was a good Thanksgiving. How about you?
Yeah, we had good too. We had 3 different stuffings as well.
There you go.
We had a loose stuffing with like big chunks of bread that's kind of like a family style, then the traditional stuffing, and then the traditional stuffing with pancetta. So we had 3 different ones as well. It's pretty good. Yeah, right? Like, yeah. So we still have a little bit. I'm going to have it for lunch today to finish it off. We had so much, but it was nice and quiet. So it was good. We put up Christmas trees too, so we had a good day.
My sister-in-law, she did bacon in the green bean casserole. The pancetta reminded me of that. I had never done bacon in a green bean casserole. I can't imagine it without it now. Holy smokes.
It's so good. Bacon is the best. It is so good, right? It's so good. Speaking of, we're talking to Tyler Beaker, who joins us every Thursday at about 12:30 Eastern time. Speaking of good, let's go bad. Let's balance this out. Trevor Lawrence, I talked all about his situation earlier in the show today and all of that. I wanted to ask you, keeper league, long-term, have you seen enough that there's still any excitement left with Trevor Lawrence, or is he just quarterback 14 for you the rest of the way? What are your thoughts there?
It's tough. I mean, I feel like he definitely deserved the mulligan from year 1. But when I look at like what he's done these past few seasons beyond the Urban Meyer debacle, I don't see a player that's consistently flirting with top 6 fantasy production in terms of upside. Just doesn't have that rushing mobility. He has yet to be with an OC that's really taken advantage of his skill set in my eyes. So maybe it'll happen down the road. I don't know if it'll happen in Jacksonville. I don't know if it'll happen in the next few years. We're going to need some changes. Getting guys like Brian Thomas Jr., though, I think that was a huge get for them in terms of adding a vertical playmaker that's young, he can grow with. But I feel like if you invested in Lawrence in Dynasty, like on the ground floor, you're kind of like pot committed, where you have a QB, like you said, 12 through 15 probably every single week with the upside for a top 8 finish, top 10 finish. You're not selling him in Dynasty given that he's got such an insulated value. Like I think people see what we see. They see there's potential there. It's just has yet to hit that ceiling. And I feel like if you've waited this long for that ceiling, it's kind of like the Panthers running back situation this year with what we're doing with Brooks. You've waited this long. Like, why sell right now, right before what could be a boom? I'm hoping they do get a new upgrade in terms of the coaching staff. I'm floored the coaching staff survived that Detroit debacle a few weeks back.
Right?
I
Yeah.
expected it to be a brutal Monday in Jacksonville with a lot of cleared out lockers and offices, but maybe they're waiting for the offseason.
Yeah, they only get up 712 points that week and got stomped out. That's really surprising. I agree with you. Let's return to what we can still do this year from the broader picture of Trevor Lawrence. Brandin Cooks, he's back. CeeDee Lamb's beat up. The offense has seemingly found a little bit of footing on the ground with Rico Dowdle having some success there with Dallas. We saw Brooks score a touchdown the last time he was out there. Dart throw, Brandin Cooks, usable Brandin Cooks. What do you think the rest of the way?
No, I don't really have any excitement for any of these Dallas Cowboys players. You can get by with like the running backs on bye weeks. This is the last week where you can make that statement, though. It's week 14. No more buys after this week. But Cooper Rush is just not an accurate quarterback. Since week 9, when he took over, he is dead last in completion percentage over expectation. So a league average QB, he is minus 9 percentage points behind that guy, minus 9.5. Not doing great. Brandin Cooks has yet to clear 20 yards since week 1. He's played 5 or 6 total games. Not interested. I'll be honest. I think there are better plays on the board.
People are planning for the playoffs, which is good to hear, though. We had a lot of playoff questions over in the Discord at fantasyguru.com. Good to hear. And they're doing the right thing looking ahead. A question that's come up a lot, and I mean more than I think it should, but a lot. So let's address it. There are people that are carrying defenses through the bye. There are people that are carrying kickers through the bye. There are people that are looking at matchups in the future. And someone even wanted to ask me if they should carry 3 defenses. Talk to us about kickers and defenses. If you're in those outdated leagues that still use them, and a lot do, are we carrying 2 kickers? Are we carrying 2 defenses? Are there reasons for that? Is that a horrible idea? What do you think about the doubling up of those 2 positions?
I've retired my soapbox on this, Ray. Listen, there are people that are going to buy the warranty when they buy something expensive, and there are other people that are not. It depends if you want the insurance and that safety net of having a defense you think you can stream against versus a defense that is more likely to just be a floor play. Like, I've got the Chiefs right now. They're playing the Chargers on Sunday Night Football. I don't care who they play. They're still a good defense in my eyes where I'm going to be playing them week after week. I'll take the variance that comes with it. Kickers, you guys are trying way too hard at the kicker position. If you're carrying more than one, it does not matter. What we really wanted to do is target high-scoring game environments. We want to avoid bad weather with high winds. That's really it. Aside from that, there's just so much variance. I've done study after study almost every offseason trying to find any kind of straight and narrow path to go on. And it's just leading to variance week in and week out in terms of ADP, in terms of like offseason ADP versus positional finish in the end of season. On a week-to-week level, the things we can count on are high-scoring game environments, dome games. That's really maybe failed teams that get into the red zone but fail to punch it in. These are really things that I'm looking at, but in terms of like trying to project week 17 kickers right now, I think you're better off just not wasting that energy.
Tyler Baker, fantasyguru.com. I agree. Scheming for success. You've mentioned the title before here on the show. You were tweeting about it this morning at Tyler Beaker on Twitter X. What is scheming for success, and what do people have to look forward to if they do indeed click that subscribe tab in the top right corner and sign up for our product at fantasyguru.com?
So in years past, we used to do wide receiver versus cornerback analysis, and I felt like that was kind of outdated and antiquated in terms of how to apply it to today's NFL. We're seeing defenses mix up their coverage schemes so often. Last year, the league average man coverage rate, so like the legit wide receiver versus cornerback, the 1v1 stuff happened on less than 25% of plays. It was just not relevant. So what I've done here is looked at, I got to give a big shout out to Fantasy Points Data with their data suite. They have a lot of great information in terms of filtering. You can view how a quarterback plays against certain coverage schemes, cover 1, cover 2, cover 3, how they do against man versus zone. Really just looking at defensive tendencies in terms of what these defenses tend to play at their highest rates, and then see how that quarterbacks fare against those certain coverage schemes. Also applying that to the wide receivers and the tight ends as well, the trickle-down effect. But that's really what the genesis of the article is just advancing the wide receiver cornerback conversation a step further and seeing how teams play against certain different coverage schemes and what they're expected to play in that upcoming week.
Tyler Beaker, fantasyguru.com. Let's talk a little bit about the matchups on Thursday night. We always have you involved here, Tyler, to kind of break things down there. A lot of big names on both sides, a lot of significant fantasy players on both sides. let's do big picture. Give me answers big picture before we get to some of the players. What do the Packers need to do to win this football game on offense? What do the Lions need to do on this game on offense to win?
Yeah, big picture stuff. We're looking at the highest game total of the week. So we're talking about kickers. We're inside in the dome here. Great spot here for kickers. These teams played each other back in week 9, 24-14 win for the Lions when they played in Lambeau. This game is now in Detroit at Ford Field. So they are playing a home game here. In that matchup, Green Bay was held to just a field goal up until the final minute of the third quarter. So Detroit basically ran away with that game. They were also helped by a pick six, which really helped boost the score. But Detroit also threw up 24 unanswered total points. So it's like they really ran away with this game. Pace of play, we're looking at a slow matchup here between both these squads. Neither of these teams play very fast neutral scripts. Both teams tend to lean on the run game as well. The Packers are surprisingly 31st in pass rate over expectation. You'd think the Lions would be a very, very run-heavy team. They're only 23rd in it. Packers are just ahead of Philadelphia by like a half a percentage point. Big news for this matchup, though. Green Bay is going to want to run the ball. Like I said, they're 31st in pass rate over expectation. They have a very beat-up Detroit defense that they're attacking. The front seven is absolutely decimated in terms of injuries. Guys on IR, guys missing this week. It's just a great spot for the Green Bay team to really lean on the run. Detroit, on the other side of the ball, they're going to do their run-heavy stuff as well. Matchup's decent in terms of that. It's just a better matchup on the ground for Green Bay when we look at like positional fantasy finishes versus how they do for each player. Volume-wise, I'm expecting it to be kind of on the lower pace. So I'm kind of like not really eager for defensive tackle and assist props, despite this being a game where generally I do want to target these kinds of squads. We want to target run-heavy teams that rack up the play volume. These teams play slow, so I'm not sure how much total play volume there will be here to try to capitalize on that. If you were trying to tackle a tackle and assist prop, I'd really just look at the middle linebackers that are for each team. Jack Campbell for Detroit and Quay Walker for Green Bay. That would be really it. Other than that, maybe take unders instead of overs, which I know everyone likes to bet overs, so I wanted to at least touch on that beforehand. But that's what I'm really looking at. A kind of slow-paced, run-heavy outing. There will be some explosive plays. Both teams can generate that. But yeah, I think if I had to take a side, I'd probably take the under on this 51.5 game total that everyone's excited about.
Tyler Beaker, fantasyguru.com. So we come into the game and everyone knows that Jared Goff, really good, but they worry about the volume, right? Because there are those games where he's throwing 22, 23, 4 or 5 passes. You just talked about the fact that you look at the Packers and think that they might be in a game tonight where they're looking to throw it 27 times and run it a lot. Which of these two quarterbacks would you lean toward in this matchup if you had to choose one for the fantasy space, Jordan Love or Jared Goff?
Great question. I think I might go Love for the variance. This guy. All right, let's start with this. The Lions play a lot of man-heavy defense where there's the ability for Christian Watson or Dontavian Wicks to get behind their defensive backs and put up big scores. We've seen it time and time again. Watson specifically has a really high percentage of air yards against man coverage, and he's done a lot of air yards, or accumulated a lot of air yards, over the last few weeks. No Romeo Doubs in this matchup, so I think we'll see consolidated options there. Jared Goff had one of those 22 attempt outings that you just referenced the last time these squads faced off. 18 for 20. It was 18 for 21 or 18 for 22.
Yeah, I think it was 22. But
something like that, where he was just dinking and dunking and making plays. That said, I think the Lions do well on the ground here where the backs soak up the touchdowns, and that really caps the upside for Goff. So I would go Jordan Love just for the variable upside in terms of like projections. I think they're really close to each other. So in that situation, I would take the variance that comes with explosive pass plays.
Tyler, let's talk about the running attacks. Obviously, Josh Jacobs, there's some concern about his health, but I think he's removed from the injury report. He's going to play this week. He's fine. He's been getting 20-plus touches every week. I think we fire him up, and I don't think you're going to disagree with that. I think we fire up David Montgomery. I think we fire up Jahmyr Gibbs. So this is one of those rare scenarios where we have 3 running backs, all top 20 guys this week. Who's your most favorite? Do you have a concern with any of the 3 guys from playing them this week either?
No concerns with any of these guys. Jacobs would be my favorite just because of the ownership in terms of the ownership of the backfield. Pardon me. We don't really have that 50-50 split that the Detroit's working with. It's more like a 65-35 with Jacobs and the other backs. There will still be a split. This is still a LaFleur team where he doesn't like to lean on one singular back. He's been doing it for years. He's still doing it now. We saw it on Miami, that Miami matchup on Thanksgiving. where other backs were also getting involved. But Jacobs, 987 rushing yards right now, RB3 behind only Henry and Saquon. When we look at his like advanced metrics, he's RB10 in missed tackles forced per attempt. He's RB10 in rush yards over expectation per attempt. He's RB12 in yards after contact per attempt. This is among all backs with 70 plus carries. So there's at least that like bottom line of productivity, but this guy's just really being productive. He's a guy that I want to attack in the props market. And I think we see the path to Green Bay coming our way with the victory here is by them executing a run-oriented attack, keeping the Lions off the field, and they're likely to find success here. This, like I said, Jacobs is RB3 and rushing for a reason. They're doing really well running the ball, and this Lions front seven is so banged up. Let me read over the names of players that are out for this defense. Actually, that list is too lengthy. Let me just say two of the guys that were in like the starting front seven from week 1 are still left. So there's a lot of players that are out, and even the depth guys behind those starters, a lot of the second stringers are also out. So it's just a cascading event of injuries that are just really going in the Packers' favor here.
Tyler Beaker, fantasyguru.com. Speaking of injuries, we have Romeo Doubs, who's out for the Packers with the head injury. I mean, is there anything in the data, Tyler, that leads you to say this is a Wicks week, this is a Reed week, this is a Watson week? Maybe it's, one of these other guys, like Heath, or I don't know. They're always variable here. We've talked a lot about the fact that you don't really predict a heavy pass outlook for the team either. Who are you favoring on the Packers receivers this week with Doubs out?
Yeah, it would certainly be Jayden Reed. The Lions, like I said, they're very man-heavy. They're very weak against the slot. They're giving up a ton of production there. Reed's coming off a 2-touchdown outing that he saw last week. 70% slot rate. The Lions are 5th in most fantasy points per game allowed to the slot, 2nd in yardage allowed to the slot. So it's a good spot for Reed in the props market, which continues to climb by the hour. His yardage mark, people love to bet on Jayden Reed. He's given up a bunch. The outside guys, the cornerbacks they have on the outside, Carlton Davis is supposed to come back after missing last week due to injury. But Davis and Terrion Arnold, the rookie from Alabama, these are the two outside perimeter corners. These guys are both top 10 in penalties on the outside, as they would rather mug a receiver that's beating them for a big play than see their name on SportsCenter's top 10. They just do not want to give up big plays. So it makes it a tricky answer of Wicks versus Watson versus any other flex play. Because there's the real possibility these guys get burnt deep. But there's also like the possibility they get burnt deep, and then you see Arnold or Davis just mug the guy midair and it all go for naught. The Lions are giving up a 54% completion rate to the outside receivers. That's dead last in the league since their week 5 bye. And a lot of it, I think, has to do because of Arnold and Davis. Just they'd rather commit penalties. That's just the way they're taught. They're aggressive. It's working to some degree, I guess. I mean, the Lions are 11-1, but it makes these guys, in my eyes, better DFS showdown plays than like wide receiver 4 flexes. I would prioritize Watson if I had to over Wicks, but in order it would be Reed, Watson, Wicks, and then Tucker Kraft, just not a great spot either. Brian Branch has been eliminating tight ends. He's just been really, really good. Only one tight end has cleared 50 yards against them all season. He's fine touchdown chasing play if you're buying into this 51.5 point game total. I'm not, so I'm not really interested in Kraft.
Speaking of the tight ends, Tyler, Kraft versus LaPorta. LaPorta got 2 touchdowns last time. Now he had 6 yards of, it wasn't part of the offense. He had 6 yards. He's getting in the end zone here of late, but we've talked about low volume. He hasn't had a lot of volume. He has had no consistency. LaPorta or Kraft if you're looking for a tight end tonight?
Yeah, I'm still going to stick with LaPorta. The Packers are 30th in DVOA to the tight end position. They've given up the 9th most fantasy points per game to the position. And these linebackers that the Packers have, they're just not great in coverage. That's why they're giving up a lot of production to both the tight end and the running back positions as pass catchers. So, yeah, give me LaPorta here. I mean, it feels like touchdown chasing, but it's not. It's still a matchup-based play. And LaPorta should see decent volume.
Yeah, I mean, when you say the decent volume, I mean, that's one of the things, too, with the Lions. Like, we get a couple of passes to Montgomery. Gibbs doesn't catch many passes anymore. He's it's weird how he compared to last year in particular. But there's, 5 passes thrown to the running backs. There's, 9 passes thrown to Amon Ross St. Brown. There's 5 passes thrown to LaPorta. And then we got Jameson Williams because there's really, I know Tim Patrick's on the field a lot, but he's not really part of the offense. What are we thinking about Jamison Williams this week? We can draw loose parallels to Christian Watson, right, in their style of play.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, Williams had a little bit more consistency, and he's a little more integral to the offense for his team.
Yeah, he's hit a gain of 20-plus yards in 7 of 10 matchups this year. The Packers right now, they're middling in terms of explosive pass play rate allowed. It's not really standing out in terms of a matchup to target or try to pursue with him. He's wide receiver 40 in our seasonal rankings over at fantasyguru.com. I feel like that's right. Like he's a flex play. He's a variable flex play. I'd rather target him and Tim Patrick in props like longest reception over total receiving yards, where these guys could get deep on one play, and that's all it takes for those things to cash. So I'd rather take that kind of market in terms of betting rather than trying to play these guys. I'm not trying to jam in Tim Patrick in seasonal. He made sense on the 3-game Thanksgiving Day slate for DFS. Not really on a full slate here with everyone else available. But JMO, he's a fine flex play. He's you know what you're getting with him. It's week 14. You've seen enough.
Tyler Beaker, fantasyguru.com, joins us every Thursday. We talk over some big picture items. We break down the Thursday night football game. His work is over at FG, his articles, the Discord, the live streams, all that we talked about earlier. You also come by and you give a free bet. And as you said here, on Turkey Day last week, you're 15 units up. Not 15 units, 15 units up on the one day with the 3 games, right? So you've obviously got something great to share with the folks today. What do we got today?
We are going to hit Josh Jacobs. We talked about him as a great matchup. I really like the volume that he's likely to see. So I like the over on his rushing and receiving yards prop. So we're combining the two. That gives us multiple paths to productivity. Prop right now is sitting at 90.5 yards on most websites. It could be up by now. I looked early this morning. We played it last night. So it might have creeped up a yard or two. But I like it. He's cleared 90 yards from scrimmage in 8 straight matchups. This guy is seeing a ton of volume, super productive. You mentioned the volume that he's seeing week in and week out. It's also translating to yardage. He's not really ripping off explosive plays per se, but he's very great in many advanced metrics that I just listed a few minutes ago. I just really like tackling this all-encompassing prop where we're just getting Jacobs to have a good game. And I feel like that's going to happen here in this matchup. I also like a little bit of on the alt of 100-plus yards at plus odds too.
All lines. Not everyone. Does everyone? I don't think every state allows that. Am I right with that? No. I think some they don't.
You're
right? Yeah. So, and I generally don't look at the alt lines enough. I'll be at that. Like when I do the baseball stuff, I admit I should look at it more. But if you have the ability, there's Tyler throwing out a little extra bonus for you there with Josh Jacobs. Before we hit a couple of the questions here that people have, I want to ask an overarching question because I see it here with one of the questions I wanted to ask you. When is the ideal time to ask a start and sit 'em? Obviously, Thursday night, you got a couple players involved on each team here. That I have 10 players involved tonight. We have a big game. But really, like, why am I getting start and sit 'em questions on a Wednesday? Like, that's kind of how I look at it. Even Thursday morning, it's like it's Thursday morning. We have one practice report. When is the ideal time to ask? Because people, they got the Jones and they need an answer. What's the ideal time to you?
All right. I think this needs to be broken down into 2 sections. Start sits versus waiver ads that are going to be introduced into that start sit section. Right. We get some of those questions that kind of blur the line, and it's like, pick 4 quarterbacks, and 3 of them are on my waiver. One is the guy that I'm questionable about starting this week. Right. That's an appropriate question to me because you're still kind of weighing, do I attack this guy on waivers? Do I go through the bidding process? Yada, yada, yada. That's a fair question to ask on a Tuesday or a Wednesday to me. Thursday night football, though, you're really only weighing like these guys as like flex plays to me. Usually, if they're like a top 24 play at RB or wide receiver. It's really just the flex plays. Do you want to weigh that versus other guys? And it's only ever tricky to me whenever we're weighing that versus guys that are either coming off injury or we're not exactly sure what type of utilization they'll have in the upcoming week. Outside of those 2 instances, like wait until Sunday morning, guys, when you have all of the most information. The Friday injury report is massive. Saturday, we'll get a later wave of plays and information update from Schefter and Rappaport. Sunday evening, like late, like 1, 2 in the morning, we'll get another wave of stuff. And then Sunday before kickoff, you get that final wave of injury updates 90 minutes before kickoff. I don't know if you guys know this, every single team must deliver their inactives 90 minutes before kickoff. So the 1 o'clock Eastern games, those are all delivered at 11:30 a.m. Eastern. 11:31. That's when you start setting your lineups. That's what I do. I don't set my lineups until honestly like 30 minutes before the game because I'm doing start sit questions in our Discord, but it's also because I'm waiting for the most accurate information for my own lineups as well. It also gives us time to accurately research and dive into every single nook and cranny of matchups, expectations for touches, expectations for projections. So we give you the most accurate and best answer on Sunday relative to a rushed Wednesday answer. And let's face it, if you ask the question on Wednesday, you're still going to be thinking about it Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So wait till Sunday. That's the best advice I can offer. And do Ray a solid. Wait till Sunday before.
Yeah, because again, and not to be a dick, right? But if you ask the question 2 or 3 times, because I see this all the time. You do too. I'll ask you later in the week again. Well, okay. And you're paying for a service. I get it. But you're asking the question 2 or 3 times. We got 50 people asking 2 or 3 times. That's an extra 60, 90 questions a week over the course of an entire season. That's an extra 1,500 questions. It's a lot. That's a lot of time where I can't, or Tyler can't do analysis, can't be writing articles, can't be doing live. So we would appreciate it if you could, pull it in a little bit. And I asked that because Henry's got a question. Henry V. I talked about DJ Moore earlier. I think DJ Moore is going to be fine and play this week, but he's got a leg issue and he didn't practice yesterday. So as we're sitting here right now, my assumption is he's going to play. I would say that he, Jennings, and Thielen are all close. They're all, so it's a very good question. Do you have a preference right now with which guy to go with, DJ Moore, Juwan Jennings, or Adam Thielen?
Another one where we want to wait for the final injury report so we can give you the best answer possible. At this time, I would rank them in that order, given what we can expect from production and matchup. Bears and Niners going against each other. Thielen, tough matchup against the Eagles. That's how I would rank it, though. DJ Moore first, Jennings second, Thielen third.
Henry also has another good question. Is Aaron Jones more of a running back 2 than a running back 1 anymore?
Bro.
He's had fumbleitis, 3 fumbles here. We have him ranked as a running back 2 this week. He's still the lead guy in that backfield for the Vikings, but his arrow is certainly pointing down, Tyler.
Aaron Jones frustrates the heck out of me because there are weeks where he looks like he's 24 years old, an all-star, just putting up 100-plus yards from scrimmage, great in the rushing and receiving game, explosives, touchdowns, you name it, everything. Other weeks where he's going for 3.0 yards per carry. Is he more RB2 than RB1? I would say he's still RB1 based on workload and usage. For a while there, we saw Cam Akers starting to creep up in terms of touches and opportunities, but he's kind of pushed him back in terms of Jones maintaining that RB1 role. And for that reason, I would say he's probably more RB1 than RB2, but let's say this week here, good matchup here against Atlanta. They're at home. I think he's back in the top 12 discussion.
Tony C's got a question here about a flex. Would you start Kareem Hunt at flex over Evan Ingram? I have Will Dissly at tight end. I'll say it again for the 9,000th time. 2 tight ends to me, don't. It's just a wasted roster spot. I'm playing Evan Ingram over Will Dissly, even with Mac Jones under center. So the question for me is Hunt or Ingram, and I'd get rid of Dissly. But that's me. How do you see it?
I would get rid of Hunt, and I'd get rid of – well, you don't have to get rid of him, but you would not start him. It's Pacheco's time right now. We saw enough of the passing of the torch where, to me, it signaled that moving forward, it's going to be Pacheco with Hunt now back in the RB2 spot for that team. So I would not want to start Hunt no matter what moving forward, barring an injury. I agree with you as well, where I'd rather just play Evan Ingram and get rid of Will Dissly entirely. Save yourself the start-sit decision and the anger of seeing one of these guys on your benches outscore the other by 1.5 points.
Right.
Yeah.
Henry's got a question, and it's Will Dissly or Jake Ferguson. We all assume Ferguson's going to play this week. Did we get a report that he's going to play? Because in my mind, I haven't seen he's going to be active this week, and I've seen like 8 Ferguson questions, and it's like, I think he's going to play, but did I miss a report on that, Tyler?
I don't know. I'm going to look him up real quick.
Okay, because he's dealing with the head injury, and a lot of people have asked, do I start Ferguson this week? I guess they're just assuming he's going to be active at this point in time. I don't think we know he's going to play. Did you seen anything?
No, not even on their website. They haven't updated it yet.
So, right now you got to go Dissly. This is a scenario where if you had 2 tight ends, I get it because we don't know if Ferguson's going to play. But yeah, I just thought I'd ask because like 4 or 5 times I've seen Will Dissly the last 24 hours. I'm like, maybe I missed it. But Dilla's got a question at the quarterback position. We talked a lot about Jared Goff and kind of your expectations tonight in that game with the Packers. And then we got Kyler Murray. And Kyler Murray's all over the place. He's up, down, he's up, down. You watch him play for 10 minutes, you think he's terrible. You watch him play for another 10 minutes, you think he's great. Here we go. So which direction are we going this week, Goff or Kyler Murray? That's a tough call. It's been a tough call most of the season. It's why I'm not a huge fan of carrying two quarterbacks, especially when both quarterbacks are ranked 8 to 13 every week. This is another one of these headaches you're causing to yourself. What do you think, Goff or Kyler Murray?
I think it really depends on what you need out of the quarterback position. We know there's so much more variance with Kyler. And is that something that your squad needs? Are you like a 20-point projected trailing squad and you need that variance injected into your squad? Then yeah, I'm playing Kyler. Just know that Kyler played the Seahawks just a few weeks back and absolutely was a no-show. So there's a very low floor here. Goff, the floor is very high. I would say the ceiling is very suppressed, where we're probably looking at anything from 12 to 18 fantasy points for Goff, a ceiling outing being 20. But Kyler has the 25-plus ceiling that Goff is just probably not capable of putting up, barring this Packers team racing out to a massive lead and forcing Goff to drop back, 35 to 40 times, which I'm not expecting that to unfold that way.
Going back to what we talked about earlier, by the way, Hal says bacon crumble on top of mashed sweet potatoes. Like Hal just wants to throw bacon on everything, which I appreciate because I'm not in the same boat. So appreciate that, Hal. Hal did have a question. Parker Washington or Elijah Moore? What do you think? Mac Jones seemed to really enjoy throwing the ball to Parker Washington. They're obviously beat up there with the Jaguars. As Hal mentioned, there's a shoulder issue for Moore. There's the head injury for Chris Tillman. We don't know, or Cedric Tillman, we don't know if he's going to play either. Difficult matchup this week, obviously, for that team. Parker Washington or Eli Moore at this point?
I'm going to invest in Elijah Moore because I want to invest in Jameis Winston, a guy throwing the ball 40-plus times every single game. We know he's going to air it out. He's really even, too, in terms of his target distribution between Moore, Judy, Tillman, Njoku, all four of those guys within plus or minus 5 percentage points of target share. So he's really spreading it around to everybody, spreading the love. I like Elijah Moore here. Washington, to me, I feel like is a guy that ran hot last week. It's funny because I was DMing one of our guys. His name's Prime in our Discord. And we were talking about how there was no ceiling for Washington. And yikes, that came back to bite me right in the butt.
yeah. Well, I wouldn't disagree with that. I mean, that was the right assessment. It just didn't work out, right? Sometimes that happens. Final question for you from Dilla. Chuba Hubbard or Khalil Shakir this week? It keeps going back and forth. Dilla doesn't know what direction to go. I think this was really almost more a question about what do you think's going on in the backfield with the Panthers. Is Hubbard getting replaced? Because he dominated the snaps last week over Brooks. Brooks had some goal line work. He touched the ball almost every snap he played. It was all Hubbard all the time. Hubbard's still the third down back. But Brooks is there, and his role is growing. Chuba Hubbard or Khalil Shakir?
Yeah, we saw Brooks sneak in with some pass catching work. I think that could be maybe something that grows and eventually steal some carries from Chuba. What I'm looking at here is the Panthers being a 12-point dog against Philadelphia. That kind of screams less carries, more checkdowns, and more passing scripts. So I'd rather go Shakir in what could be a shootout with the Bills and Rams. That game looks, to me, really exciting, one that I want to invest in for DFS purposes. The Rams play a lot of cover 3. I envision this to be an Amari Cooper game, to be honest. But that said, I don't think Shakir's a bad play whatsoever either. After the previous week where it was the snow-filled game with minimal passing, I think this one will be kind of on the other side of the spectrum where we see the Bills drop back and throw and find success through the air. So I like Shakir. Give me him over Chuba.
He's Tyler Beaker, FantasyGuru.com. Joins us every Thursday at about 12:30 Eastern time to talk Thursday Night Football, take your questions, kind of give a State of the Union. You can find him in Discord all the time. You can find him on the live stream for Seasonal on Tuesdays. You can find him on the DFS live stream on Fridays. You can find his articles and discussions, all that kind of stuff over at the website as well. Anything unique the next couple of days, Tyler, or kind of status quo for what you're putting out?
Status quo. I mean, we're kind of at the end of bye weeks, which is nice for my game script article. It's 3 fewer games I have to write up. So I'm going to enjoy this last week, maybe watch a movie or something. But no, it's nice that we've got the continuity going. I mean, tomorrow I'll do my DFS Core 4 live stream. Saturday I'll do my game script article, going game by game, looking at matchups and anticipated game flow. And then Sunday, you guys can catch me in our Discord over at Fantasy Guru, answering any kind of start sits you guys have. Oh, I will also be joining Armando this Sunday on the DFS live stream Sunday morning. So I'll be a little delayed jumping in the Discord there for start sits. But our guys, Russell Clay and Rich Miletto, will definitely be helping out.
Going to see a lot of Tyler's face and voice here over the next couple of days, which is a good thing for all of you because, as you can tell, he knows what he's talking about. Tyler, thanks for your time today. Really appreciate it. We'll talk to you again in 7 days. I hope you have a good day, week, all that kind of stuff. We'll talk to you next week.
Yep. Thanks for having me, and good luck this Thursday, guys.
He's Tyler Beaker. I'm Ray Flowers. Remember, go to FG. Click that subscribe tab in the top right corner. Get all of my work, all of his work, all of the staff's work in football, DFS, wagering, seasonal, all of it. $65 the rest of the way through the playoffs over at fantasyguru.com. He's Tyler Beaker. I'm Ray Flowers. This has been Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by fantasyguru.com. We'll see you at 12 o'clock Eastern tomorrow for Friday's show.